Okay, ready. Okay, good evening. Welcome to the Thursday, May 14th, 2024 open session of the Community Preservation Committee at Town Hall. Pursuant to Chapter 2 of the Acts of 2023, this meeting will be conducted via in-person and via remote means. Specific information and the general guidelines for remote participation by members of the public and/or parties with a right and/or requirement to attend this meeting can be found on the town's website at www.northandoverma.gov. For this meeting, members of the public who wish to watch the meeting may do so on their televisions by tuning to Comcast Channel 8, Verizon Channel 26, or online at www.northandovercam.org. Every effort will be made to ensure that the public can adequately access the proceedings in real time via technological means. In the event that we are unable to do so, despite best efforts, we will post on the town website an audio or video recording, transcript, or other comprehensive record of proceedings as soon as possible after the meeting. If the public would like to participate in the public meeting, please email your questions or comments prior to or during the meeting to CPC emails at northandoverma.gov. The question or comment will be provided to the committee before the meeting or read during the proceedings, if received during or shortly before the meeting. Okay, any questions? Okay. So from the agenda tonight, we're going to vote on the FY25 applications. Do we want to, I'll take the sense of the committee. I know we talked about the finances last week. Do we want to revisit the finances before we start voting, or do we want to, the financials before we start voting, or do we want to jump right in?
I did a little data point on the 5-year bond information we received. And from my experience with the Finance Committee, one of the metrics that is used to see if the debt, overall debt to annual debt payment to revenue ratio was under 5%. It's a benchmark used in one of the many benchmarks used in evaluating the town's ability to pay and get our bond ratings up high. So I was curious because it's quite a bit. Just as a point of, it's roughly we're at $4.5 million before anything for our annual principal and interest payments for FY25 for the town. That's what we pay.
This is for
All things, all capital improvements. Right. And so it's spread out over 5, 10, 15, 20 years. Like the high school's still in there, for example, as a, not, whatever. I shouldn't get into that. So when I add the 5-year bond of the principal and interest for the rec center, it's roughly $1.4 million added to it, and that brings us up from 3.5 to 4.6% as a percentage of our total revenue receipts that we get into town. Property taxes, motor vehicle excise tax, all that stuff. The benchmark has always been 5%, keep ourselves under 5%. So then I look at what we did for 26, it goes down to 3.8, and then for 27, it goes to 3.4, all with the 5-year bond payment plan. So from a health perspective, I was concerned because it's a sizable chunk to add to our current debt payments, but it still keeps us under that 5% threshold. So that's all I got.
So what's your personal opinion based on that?
Pay it off sooner than later.
Yeah.
Well, I guess I can add a little bit to that, talking to the town manager. Her thought was that the non-CPC funds is going to be a 25-year through that. She was concerned about the capacity to bond other recreational projects within that time period. If some land became available, the town, CPC wanted to purchase, that we wouldn't have the available funds to do that. She did tell me that she would entertain 10 years. I don't have any figures to back that up, but I know that the way she's proposing it now, there's no impact to the taxpayers.
Correct. In fact, either one, I don't think there was any impact to the
No,
taxpayers.
you're correct.
In fact,
Right.
if there was impact to the taxpayers, they'd have to go for a little bit of a override of some sort.
Right.
I looked at the 10-year, and obviously it's less. It's just 10 years.
Yeah.
Have we we ever done bond financing on previous projects, or would this be the first time?
A couple of the first 3 or 4 years, the land projects that we did, we covered them over 3 years. And that was it. And in the very beginning, we had to, we had no choice in the matter because there wasn't enough money. But I think as I said, we made a conscious decision to keep the term extremely low because we wanted to let the people in the town know that they had a choice of whether they wanted to keep CPA for the long term or not. But that was it. It was 3 years, never further than that. We don't, the town manager's right in the sense that we have additional money in the coffer, but if a large project comes up, and I've said this a number of times, there are a couple large land projects, whether they're for open space or recreation, could be quite a bit of money. You could make a reasonable argument that you should be careful and keep as much money as possible for those projects. My opinion still is that we should do this over 5 years because the optics of going out any further are not good in terms of CPA. But, if this consensus is to go longer, then that's what it is.
I do have a question for those who might know. There is the Wang hang-up still pending before court?
So I do have an answer on that, too. According to the town manager, the project will move forward at risk. So there's the pending litigation on the approval of the planning board of the special permit, but the town has the option to move forward at risk on that. And I think that's the position the town is taking right now.
And so your other concern with the 20-year, though, wasn't it that there has to be a larger percentage? There has to be a 2/3 vote at town meeting?
Well, there's going to be, if you bond at all, it's going to be a
Yeah.
2/3 vote
Okay.
regardless.
Okay.
I think, generally, some large, like when we did the first tranche of the school of the playground project, we didn't bond it at all. We just did it out of current proceeds because we had the money at the time. There's a little bit of risk. Again, I don't think there's any sentiment in the town for opposition to CPA the way there was 10 or 15 years ago. But, again, you just want to keep the brand clean. That's,
I guess my only concern is one of those properties that could become available in the next year or two. And if we go with 5 years, we may be putting ourselves at risk of
Yeah.
losing that property.
So I did a quick back of the envelope, and this is all rough, guys.
Yeah.
Looking at fiscal year '26, we're assuming a $3 million inflow of revenue from both CPA as well as interest. We would end up around $9.4 million in our banks for fiscal year '26. So we're still pretty healthy. And that's, by the way, that's assuming a 5-year bond payment. So if it's 10 years, it's a little less.
yeah, ultimately it depends. If a person goes in and looks at all the numbers in excruciating detail and comes back and says, why are you bonding this for 10 years when at the end of next year you're already going to have $10 million in the bank already? Why are you doing this? How are you going to answer that other than, well, we want to preserve our powder for the long term? But
I think
you see my point is it becomes increasingly hard to sell.
I do. It's kind of, in our way, it's our narrow way of thinking, and I agree with you, John, except that Melissa has the broader town involved, and she is probably going to be bringing in a lot more debt to do some of the capital projects that are out there for the long-term plans. So that's the thought process, I think, from her perspective. So, yeah.
But because CPA is a dedicated funding source, does it get conflated with everything else?
I don't know how
Well,
that
you're
works.
borrowing on the credit of the town. So,
Yeah.
that's what I would say. Like, they're looking at the whole
Yeah,
thing,
okay. That's fair enough, yeah.
It's not CPA, it's the town.
Yeah.
And then going back to the voting numbers, is there any sense that a third of people at town meeting are going to vote against this? This seems like it was, you've had 20 public meetings. This seems like it's going to be a transformational project. Is there any sense that could be trouble at town meeting?
Yeah.
I mean, I don't think so.
I don't
Yeah.
think so personally, but.
Yeah.
It's a popular.
What you,
Yeah.
what you
I-
don't
I-
want
I
to
can't
have
imagine,
happen,
yeah.
and this is where it's not so much this project, because I think, like, you know, Rick, you and Terry have talked a lot about this, is that this is a big deal for a lot of
Right.
people.
Yeah.
It's really important to a lot of people. You want to be careful that when you go across all the projects, you don't get a small chunk of people that don't like this one, and another chunk
Right.
of people that don't
Right.
like this one, and another, and then collectively, you know, I mean, that's the point, so you just gotta be astute to it. So, I mean, in the end, if the town manager wants to go 10 years and ties into something broader, I'm okay with that. I prefer 5, but that's fine. I mean,
Yep.
it's not that big a deal.
And it really, the town manager has the whole town and her future thought process involved in all this, so.
Yeah. That's why they're in those positions, so.
Yeah, and that was her recommendation, if, you know, if 25-year
Her
would,
recommendation was 10 years?
she said she would go along with that, yes. She had proposed the 25 years, but she's willing to go along with the 10 years.
What did you think of 5 years?
5 years, her concern was having enough money for recreation to do other projects.
Future.
I wish
Yeah.
you used the
I don't
word
know.
open space.
Open space, I'm sorry. Open space recreation.
No,
I stand corrected.
No, I mean, just because there's an,
Oh, yes,
the
yes.
constituent for CPA
Sure.
is open
Yep.
space.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep, you're correct.
I think this is a very popular project in town. A lot of people are talking about it, especially the school folks. I think a good, reasonable position for us would be to go in and say, okay, go with a minimal bonding term, 5 years, for instance, if she'll support that, and back that up by saying, you know, look, we're trying to be cautious with our funds, and we've already set a precedent on, you know, short-term bonding on some of these projects. I think it's a solid argument, and if we can diffuse that, I think this'll work.
Well, I think the other thing is too, we had a Fields Committee meeting with the town manager and deputy town manager on Monday, and some of the Fields master plan has projects like the high school out and Shopner's Pond in, I think, fiscal year 2027. Design and then construction, so that's gonna be a couple of $1 million in construction. So I think she's putting those also into the pot of along with open space, and looking at it and wanting to make sure that she has enough money for open space projects that are kind of in the Fields master plan. So I think that's, her feeling was 5 years was too short.
It's, the annual principal and interest difference between 5 and 10 year is $600,000. So it's not
Yeah,
it's,
right, yeah.
it's, yeah.
I assume when we bond, it's done in such a way that you can call the bond if the interest rates go down.
I remember asking this question, and I can't remember the answer.
I think there is that kind of arbitrage. Anyways, I think you can do that kind of thing. Yeah, I'm not sure. I'm not 100% sure, John. It's
I
been
mean,
well.
you know, you can roll it over,
It doesn't
or you can pay it off, but
Yeah.
you're more inclined to roll it over
Yeah.
into something that's less expensive.
I don't know if there's a premium attached to paying it off early, so I don't know.
Early penalty.
Yeah, there definitely is an early penalty.
Interesting.
Yeah. I mean, if you
It's true
bought
with
a bond,
CD.
if you bought a
Right.
bond that paid a coupon of 7%, and all of a sudden they're like, actually, we don't want to give you 7%, we want to give you your principal back, you know.
Doesn't
guess-
work that way.
Yeah,
Callable bond.
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but I think that would definitely sell at a different price than a different interest rate. That'd be priced in.
You'd buy that bond a lot cheaper.
It'd be a higher interest rate.
Yeah. Okay, I'm sensing that we might be ready for a vote on the Recplex.
Yes,
Um,
I'd say so.
I have a motion relative to the Recplex funding.
I'll make-
That is submitted as
Let me just sort of do the,
25 years, so,
well, I'll change it here.
I mean, we could certainly change it.
Yeah, let's,
I mean, is the motion basically to approve the appropriation,
yeah.
bonded over?
And
as
I think
a 10-year term?
we can recommend, I don't know if we can dictate.
No, I don't think so. I think because it's not our application.
So here's the, here,
Oh, we're the approving body.
it's actually two different people, right? Two different approvals, one for the bonds and one for the CPC. So I'll make a motion, and you can change it if you want. Make a motion to approve the recreational center
Complex.
recplex of request of $5,914,748 to be bonded, and the recommended bonding period is suggested at 5 years, but no more than 10 years.
I'll second that.
Okay, we'll do a roll call, because I think we're supposed to do a roll call for funding. So John?
Yep.
Keeping track of.
Okay.
You
Ron?
Yes.
Okay. Adam?
Yes.
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 And Terry?
Sorry.
You should be up on the screen.
I don't think the TV's even on, monitor's
He's
even
right
on.
here. Yeah.
He might be muted.
Can we get him on the big screen, guys?
Oh, is it me? Oh, okay. Sorry, Terry.
My answer is yes.
Okay. You got that, Ben? Okay.
Tell him to put down his pina colada.
I know. It's, okay. All right, so we have a unanimous vote, 5 to 10. Okay. So why don't we continue on open space? Let me just grab the agenda again. Okay.
Quick.
All right. Let's do the bandstand. It's an application from the town for $210,000 for a renovation of the bandstand. And I would say with the, as we discussed in a few meetings, they don't have a full conceptual design yet. And in discussions with the town that I had with Laurie Burzloff was the recommendation that the size be capped at the number they had in there, which was 60 by 40, and that there's no roof.
60 by 40?
Yeah.
Okay. 15 by, okay.
And I could be,
Was it that large?
No.
Small. I thought
it might have been small.
It's
Yeah.
no bigger than,
It's bigger than the original.
It's bigger than what's there right now,
16 to
but
17 feet wide?
I thought it
Yeah.
was, I'll go
I
back.
thought it was like 15 by.
15 by
15 by
40?
maybe.
Bear with me, I lost a 0 on my stuff. Open space. Town common stage. Bit with me.
it's 600 square feet.
600
It's 600 square
600
feet.
square feet. So can we stipulate that?
15 by 40.
Yeah.
I wanted a couple of, one question and a couple observations. 600 square feet, 210,000 is almost, in my mind, is out of reasonable proportion as the library thing. I mean, nobody that would put something like that on their own property would ever spend $200,000 for that. If somebody was starting, like running a restaurant and want to have an outdoor area for concerts and so forth, there's no way they'd spend that much money for something like this. And I didn't pick that up before, but 600 square feet, $210,000 is an enormous amount of money. It's over $300 a square foot, which is more than full construction of a house.
And there's no roof and no walls, right?
Yeah.
There is a
There is water.
segmental retaining wall proposed at 100 feet.
Correct.
And there's also a handicap accessible ramp within code, and there was new electrical layout to be run up to the new stand. There's also some landscaping in there too, shrubs and seasonal plantings. I mean, it's still, yeah, it's expensive.
I mean, this is what, if you go back in time, the last time that, Jack, you may remember, when this whole notion of, at the time, a gazebo was pitched for the old center, was like, really pretty negative opinion through the town on it. Now, this one, there's no structure, so, you know, that's not an issue here, but
Same footprint.
it almost feels to me that, you know, having a citizen committee on this is, I think, really important, and they said that they would do it. I would be more inclined to be okay with this is if the committee met and came up with their final idea and then came back to us, rather than just, you know, I think 200,000 is too much money, but I'd feel better that we don't spend any money until this group meets and has open hearings, because I'm not sure there's a
Yeah, I mean,
consensus on this.
I would go the other way. I mean, I look at it like this, right? Like, it's an actual sort of safety issue. And what we're talking about is like a whole nother season that we go with nothing. So, you know,
Well,
if
we're
we're
going
going
with another season with nothing, because
what?
we're going to go with, we can't spend the money until July anyway, so we're going to go through another year of it anyway.
So we have a check there with the Old Town Center.
I mean, that's a
They do.
partial check, but
So,
it's
I mean,
not
they're
complete.
looking at the design, they're looking to see form, fit, and function. They're looking at, you know, well, let's face it, this is not gonna be the Taj Mahal. It is a slab of concrete for all intents and purposes that is stone stamped, and yeah, got some nice little add-ons here and there, but it's not a lot.
No, but if it's not a lot, then must go to 1,000.
Yeah.
Is part of that money contingency money?
There's 16,000 in contingency.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in construction, and it like doesn't surprise me. It's like 30 or 40,000 to mobilize a crew and pay insurance and sort of set up on site. Right, that's just kind of the cost of doing business. You know, so it's not surprising to me that it's this much money, and I don't think it's anything we're going to be doing, you know, again for 20 years. So, you know, I'm inclined to sort of move ahead and get going and going with the idea that, right, it's going to go to design with the committee picking the finishes and so forth. So it's not even like the town has a sort of dead set design that would even be controversial, because they're going to let the finishes be chosen by the committee that oversees the old center.
So, are you okay then with, before we spend any money, that the committee's formed and does its review, or?
There's no like new committee being formed. It's just the.
I thought that's what she said they would do. There would be a citizen committee.
I think she said she'd go to the old center.
The old
I
center committee.
thought she said there would be a citizen committee. I thought she explicitly said that. If
I
there's
didn't,
not gonna.
I didn't take that
I mean,
away. I didn't take that away. I thought it was
I
like
thought
there's
she
an
said it
existing
exactly
committee.
correctly. If we're not gonna do that, I'm okay with doing this if there's a citizen committee, but if there's not a citizen committee on it, I have a real problem with this.
Well, do we have a motion and we can decide and move on?
I mean, John, would your idea be a subject to the Citizens Committee? I mean, to me, it's like it's.
On the 400 Great Pine Road thing, it's, okay, we want to do this, let's get a group of people that are very civically minded and have institutional memory of the old center and the history of the old center, and make sure whatever proposal we finally end up with was something that has broad consensus in the town. And that's what I thought she said that they.
Isn't that what this committee is,
I
though?
believe she did
That already
say
exists?
the first
No.
time. She
The
was in her-
Old Town Center?
I don't think she
Yes.
mentioned
No.
that the last. when
It's
she
just
was in
basically,
last
we
week.
look to see that it fits the history, the historical
Fits the historical,
of
yeah,
nature
understood.
of the area.
I just don't think it's that big. Like, I think it's a low level, we're talking about something that's 18 inches tall, you know, so it's kind of like, you know, 400 Great Pond Road, you're deciding use, you're deciding like structures, you're moving all this stuff around here, like, you know, what's this committee gonna do that's gonna be
Well,
any great sort of,
It's the old
Shakes.
center, it's probably considered to be the most precious bit of property in the entire town, the most important single property that we have. It's, you know, and what I'm saying is I think we should give due respect and deference to that and make sure that there's a broad consensus, that's all.
So wouldn't the old center people fit that bill completely? I mean,
No, their job is just to approve or reject anything that comes in front of them. They're not a group that like, is a working group to solicit other opinion and different ideas.
so here we are, we're gonna limit the size to a size 15 by 40, 600 square feet. All little odds and ends here, improving the electrical and the whatnot. And one of the conditions has always been subject to the Old Center Historical Commission because they haven't blessed it. And if they bless it, doesn't that sort of fit the feel?
Well, it may, but what if they reject it?
That's perfect. That's perfect. Exactly why you have that condition in there. In other words, they didn't do the town didn't do their job in convincing the old center that it's a good thing. I think that's a good check.
Oh, it's a good check, I just don't think it's sufficient, that's all.
I mean, I fundamentally think like municipal government already moves so slowly, like why are we gonna take another, you know, if it doesn't get funded this year, it comes back next year, why are we gonna take another year on like something that's,
I'm not suggesting that, I'm suggesting that you bring a bunch of people together and make sure that there's consensus.
but that's, I don't know that that's really our role, like, hey, you know, town meeting, or hey, you know, who are we saying that to? And who's gonna appoint the committee, and who gets to decide who's gonna be on it, and what they're,
Town manager just, I mean, hey, if nobody, I don't think anybody else other than me wants to go that way, so we ought to just drop it.
I think this project has a couple features that we're just touching on in our discussion. First is the price tag, and second is the citizen committee. You know, Lori was pretty open with this project, saying that you know, there's not been a lot of development on it. She got a few pictures off the internet, and you know, they developed a concept, but it wasn't developed like a real construction project. So I think if I were them, I probably would have put a price in higher than I thought it might be, because you have more uncertainty there. And secondly, I think the Citizens Committee makes an awful lot of sense. But maybe we could require that. But I think they haven't really gone that far, and they didn't seem to have much of a design concept. You know, on the face brick that they were going to put up, they had certain options, and so I don't think it's really all that well developed. So I mean, we could require a citizens committee. We could approve the amount, the dollar amount, knowing that if it comes in less, which if it's further developed, design and everything, it probably would come in less, we just get that money back, so.
I think a lot of good points have been made. I think I would have loved to see what this actually looks like.
We don't.
But at the same time, I'm not an expert in building a stage, and I don't think this is the plan for this is to be the Taj Mahal either. And I think one of the biggest complaints that I hear from neighbors and friends in towns is that our town government just moves so slowly, and it's brutal for a lot of people. And not to wax poetic, but one of the main reasons I kind of wanted to sit on this committee was, well, first of all, number one, I just wanted to give back to the town. But I think the second reason is there's just not a lot of people my age. I don't know if there's anybody my age on any town committee. And I think last census, we had like 55% of our residents were, I'm 39, so I think about 55% of our residents.
We had minimum 45 here.
Oh, yeah, I know, right? That's what I mean. I don't think I make the cut. So I have a tendency, I'm going to have a tendency, I think, to support projects that I think are where people are going to see, you know, it's going to be an active improvement in something they do on a regular basis. I mean, this is right here on the town common. You know, there's.
Which is important, because it is obviously something that we want to make sure that is done correctly.
That's right.
And has enough input into it.
I mean,
Right.
but-
So is your feeling that there isn't?
Well, my way of
Which way are you
context in
leaning?
this is,
I'm just saying, like Jack said, that there isn't, I mean, there is a concept, but not an actual design. All of the elements of the design are not figured yet.
So I'm looking at the quote here, and in the scope of work, it states that we anticipate 3 meetings with the design committee. And I think that's what you're talking about, a design committee. So it sounds like there is a plan to have a design
yeah,
committee.
if there's a design committee, then I'm fine with it. I just
That's
want to
part of
make
the
sure
scope
there's
of work,
proper
so
input.
I assume
mean,
that will be
I
happening.
don't think, Adam, to provide some deeper context on what goes on in the common is, I mean, there's an incredibly long history of, you know, how the common got to be what it is that, you know, preceded any of us. And there used to be houses on the common and they all got moved. But since CPA started, we have funded 5 or 6 projects on the common, so there's quite a few of them. And we put a lot of thought and effort into them about what impact they're gonna have. All of the streetlights, the utility poles is one big project we did. Another project is there were horrible drainage problems, they were all fixed. So and there were a few other ones. So, but what I'm saying is, and I think, you know, along with what Jack is saying
Somewhat
is,
fixed.
if, let's be sure we got the thing right, and I don't think it's gonna slow it down by having a design committee.
Terry wanted to speak, and I don't know why, but he's not up on the screen. Do we want to, I mean, he's got the microphone
Better be
here.
on.
Yeah.
Is that on?
Can you hear me?
Yeah,
Yeah.
we can hear you.
Does anybody have a
So
clicker?
We did the same thing when we funded all the playgrounds. We gave them the money, and if we gave them a certain amount of money, they had to put together a committee from the schools and the neighborhood to give input, and they basically designed it after we gave them the money, and it worked out very good. I think we did 10 playgrounds that way, and Laurie ran it, so I would think she could do it again.
So how are these committees typically formed? How were they formed in the past, Terry, or anybody else?
So what they did is they put out a robocall to the neighborhood and to the school to see who wanted to be on the committee, and then they put the committee together that way.
That's how the playground equipment was selected for McAvoy Field. Survey money at the time. That's how that was picked.
I think both things are going to happen here. I think we're going to approve of money, but we're also going to suggest, let's make sure we do have a design committee that fits, make sure that it fits the neighborhood, fits what the neighborhood needs, what the common needs. I don't think there's anything wrong with that. I'm convinced now.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, I guess it's not like a hill I really want to die on, whether it's the old center committee, because it's already there. And I kind of feel like if they have to if they have to approve it anyway, like, why not just have a one-stop shop? But I can go with that. Do we have a motion? Then
Is the amount 210 or 225? Because you got 225 in your schedule here. But the application has 210.
yeah.
I think she mentioned she'd like to have, if we want to give us a little bit more money. I remember like a quote, but
Yeah.
I didn't think it was formalized.
It's 210 on the application.
Yep,
I'm gonna go with 210.
yep.
Okay. All right. Do we have a motion relative to the bandstand?
Let's see if I can do this right. I make a motion to approve the application for the town common stage in the amount of $210,000, subject to a formation of a citizens committee to help with the design of the stage, also subject to the approval of the Old Center Historical Commission, making sure that the stage is no bigger than 15 by 40 or 600 square feet. The location also subject to the location remains the same, and the last condition, there's no roof.
Second.
Okay, John? Oh, we'll
Yes.
vote, okay.
Yes.
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 Yes,
Yes.
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 okay. So we did a full roll call, okay, perfect. All right. Next,
Bill, can I interject here?
Yeah.
Can you guys touch on the North Parish Church here? We have town council. I think that'd be appropriate.
Oh.
Answer any questions about.
Sure.
sure. We can do that.
Batter up.
Okay. So, Mr. Connor, would you like to come and give a brief overview, and then we can do some questions?
I think Zach had forwarded the opinion, and so I was just coming tonight in the event that there were any questions. As I understand it, this might be, in the past, that there have been some applications from places of worship that have been denied based on Acton, and that may be totally appropriate. In this particular case, I think that this particular application can be distinguished from the Acton decision, and if the CPC felt it was appropriate to go forward and fund the work that's proposed, either in whole or in part, I think you would be, within your right to do that.
We have questions?
So the previous religious projects that we did not approve, were those specifically because they were religious buildings, or were there other reasons?
I would say we found aspects of, I would say two things. One is that sometimes we found a hard time drawing a line between which parts of the church were being funded. So in other words, if it was the interior of the church, we were wondering if that was more directly related to the worship as opposed to the exterior of the church. So that would be sort of one thing, and we didn't have, I would say, surety around. We didn't have sort of, a more robust explanation of what the work was and how it was different from, how those funds wouldn't make it more likely that the church could do more religious activities because of the funds being sent to them. So I think really that analysis was helpful. I mean, I think,
Were those
obviously
previous projects reviewed by council? No.
No.
Well,
Partially.
partially.
Yeah.
I mean, the thing about it is, and we're really talking St. Paul's
Yeah.
is the one, was a fairly large, the Episcopal Church. It was right after Acton that this came up, so, and I think people weren't sure how it was going to be interpreted, and I think that the guidance we got from town council at the time, which I think was prudent guidance, is be really careful.
Right.
Don't try to go to the limit on it, and I think for that reason, we said, we just want to pass for now.
Right. And as a matter of fact, I will restate that. Actually, town council Susan Egan did send us an opinion on that. And so we reviewed that actually at the start. I forwarded that out at the start of this process, I think, just as
Yes.
what she had said, and I forwarded it to the applicant, and I think that informed the applicant's application. And I think, one important thing about the application is that it does focus on the exterior parts of the church, and it's not an interior part. And, I think the other interesting parts of the analysis, from my perspective, were the public benefit and public access to the church, to the building by other civic and non-religious groups. And then I would say, too, I think, and I'd be interested to hear town council talk about this a little as well, I think the idea that there is a 501c3 that is
A
formed to sort of
non-religious affiliated.
non-religious
Yeah.
affiliated to sort of take that also, meant that it's a little bit more arm's length.
Gotcha. So both in the project itself and the environment around approving religious-related, that's changed. There's differences.
It's not religious.
Right.
This is a structural renovation of a
Right.
historical
Right.
significance.
Right.
And it's not stained glass, it's not the interior of worship, it's nothing about, it's basically, it's a landmark in town.
Understood, yep.
Bill? Hey, Bill?
Yep.
So, I'd like to hear her speak to, personally, part of what when we saw the other projects, some of it was interior, but St. Paul's had a lot of exterior. They also offer a lot of programs inside. My thought was, for this year, I'm not ready to fund it until we put out some type of a statement on our website or whatever that she's comfortable with that tells what we do fund now, and then give everybody an equal opportunity, because we kind of turn people away with well, I think the big thought was we just not going to fund church projects right now. And I would like to be fair about it and put it out there so everybody has the same opportunity to present it the same way. And that the door is open, and would love to hear from them. But
I'd like to think that saying that there is a black and white checkmark policy for allowing CPA money to be used for churches, church structures, I don't think we'll ever get there. Every one of them stands on their own because, they all could be unique. This one tried to delineate how it differs from the religious to the support of a historical structure. Made it very clear to everybody, made it very clear that where the funding is going, but to try to put that together as here's what you have to do. I mean, I'm going to give credit to the team here, to Bill, relative to guiding the Friends of the Church, Friends of the Meeting House, about what things they need to look at. Here are the steps, here are the processes, and they started early. Initially, it wasn't there, but they did their homework, and they put together a good package, as good as I think anyone's going to get, relative to supporting a non-religious request for CPA money. And I don't know exactly the code where it found it, but to deny a church for a sake that it's a religious place, by the way, is also a fault, a failure would be a failure on our part. So it really has to fit the bill here. And I think the Friends of the Meeting House and our town council has done a good job in putting together the right structure for this thing. And, yep.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with you. I think you've done a great job, and I think the church has done a great job. And I think we've moved to the point where we can say very clearly, this thing makes sense. The thing we have to do, and I think that the point that Terry is really trying to make, is we really have to go back to all the other churches and say to them, look, we can't tell you exactly what literally every criteria is, but we are open-minded about funding projects going forward, and we're not showing favoritism to this church as opposed to other ones. That's the optics thing, because there's a lot of people in town that are kind of funny about funding churches, and if they think you're going to fund this one, but you're not going to fund St. Paul's, then you got to be able to say, no, we're treating everybody the same.
So I have a question. That makes good sense, both Terry and John. But A question, there was the comments made earlier in the program about we don't go retroactive in reimbursing people for their cost. And, obviously the TNT wanted to have us reimburse them for the cost of the ceiling that collapsed and all the plaster work, and we said that would probably fail by itself.
Well, I
right?
mean, that one you couldn't do.
Right, but
I
I'm just
think
saying
it's-
is
you can go
are
back
we
to them
okay
and
with,
say if they
we
have
okay with,
something in the future,
are we
we
okay
would
with
consider.
retroactive? If they wanted, St. Paul's wants to come back and said, all we wanted to do was this, and this, and we've already done it, could you help reimburse us for it?
What we got told them, no. I mean,
No.
that's where the rules are, but if they, I don't believe they've done it, by the way, there, but the point ends up being is I think we need to get a message to all the churches that we're going to treat them fairly going forward and make the people, because
I agree.
there are some people that say, well, why you give it to them, you're not giving it to everybody else, you're favoring them. You want it absolutely clear that we treat everybody the same.
You may have the perception out there that churches will not get funded if they submit for their projects, so you may have,
Well, you know what,
Those churches out there.
we initially did have that, but I think, we've we've learned, we've gotten smarter, and we've applying the law. So I agree with everybody's statement here, is we should let every church know that they got a historical structure, that they too can apply for CPC money. I wouldn't hold up this project for that, though.
Yeah, I tend to agree. I think, I think it's important that, we try to be fair. But I think the decisions you all made in the past were the best decisions you made with the information that you had at the time. That's the explanation. And I think here, I'd be hesitant to, now, I'm not sure 100% if I want to support this project or not, but I think, these people have obviously done a fantastic job putting together this presentation. It's our understanding that we have the power to approve it. My understanding, listening to you all, is that this project is different in a lot of ways. So I also hate to sort of drag these folks along here another year, with just come back next year because we want to make it fair. I mean, those folks will have a fair shot that we considered previously to come back next year.
I'm okay with doing this year, I just think we
Right.
need to.
Okay.
I agree with you, John, I agree with you, Terry. I think people, the churches should know.
Yeah.
I mean, yeah.
And the due diligence you referred to, Tim, is valuable in this project,
Yeah.
especially what I'm thinking of is the opinion that we got on this project that identified 3 specific criteria that were met and rationale as to why they met the criteria. And I think that kind of forms a standard going forward for other religious organizations, that we can say, look, these are the criteria that we used to do it in the past. You meet 2 of them, but you don't meet the 3rd. Can you do something about that? Well, I think we have a standard that we can use going forward, a precedent, I should say.
Christine, I saw you nodding your head at various points during our conversation. Anything else kind of popping into your mind that you wanted to add in particular?
No, I agree in large part with the discussion here tonight. I think it's important to, as everyone knows and has already been articulated, to be able to, have some message for perhaps other places of worship that are interested, that also have historic issues, or maybe they have open space issues, what types of things kind of get you over the finish line, what types of projects are generally, allowable, and what types aren't. And, you've talked about the interior of the church. It gets very precarious when that's really the nature of the application. And as the chair had mentioned, a no small distinction in this case was the applicant themselves, who are really, they're formed in order to, for historic preservation purposes, for the meeting house. And, the Acton case is, you can see how CPC groups have struggled with Acton, because it's not an easy case these questions, these tests are very difficult. And it would be very easy to sort of look at these touchstones that they give you, these three prongs, and in every single one, there is something that, you know, tips away from a church getting the money. But if you do that all the time, then you're going to be left with the result that really, just because a house of worship is making an application, no matter how historic, no matter how significant, you're never going to meet it. And that also can't really be the result. We know that, so.
We want more discussion, or do we want to have a?
Just real brief, I think everything that's been spoken tonight is so important. And I think as part of the town warrant, in the commentaries section, I'd like to think that, Bill, you could write and draft something in there that addresses this, maybe other applications as well, but to address this, because I think people need to know that a lot of thought went into this very difficult decision, and they passed the test. And so can you, perhaps, in the future, kind of thing. And let people know that it's there for them, for that purpose, if they pass those tests. So, John, to your point, I don't want to be play favoritism, but I think we let people know we're not wanting to play favoritism. We want the money to be available for everybody. If they fit the criteria, so be it. So.
There's one thing I just wanted to add as a condition, if we approve this, is that I do think we need to have an extension of the conservation restriction that exists on the property. I think the original one was for 35 years. I think it should be extended. I don't know, have you looked at the actual conservation restriction from last time? And I mean, it's a pretty lengthy document, and I'm presuming it's in good order, and maybe all that would need to be amended is the term on it, but I haven't looked at it
No, I
in
haven't
a long
either.
time, so, but I do think that, after all, we're giving the money, we should get some benefit back, because that's the
Absolutely.
reason why we're doing it. The other thing, and this is, I wouldn't necessarily put it in the decision, but I think somebody should tell the church not to put signs on the building itself.
To do what, I'm sorry?
They put signs on the building itself, which I think is, I mean, I don't mind the sign, I don't necessarily agree with them, but I don't mind the signs, but I don't want them on the building. I mean, just.
I think that's a tough one. Just kind of cut straight to like freedom of speech,
Well, it's a historical structure. I mean, they can have freedom of speech, just
But
don't
it's-
put it on the
I mean, what's
historical building. It's not historical when you do that. But I don't want to make a.
Yeah, I mean-
and that's why I don't want to put it in
Listen.
the decision, but somebody should
I mean,
tell
listen.
them that
I mean,
it's
there.
not
I don't
putting,
know.
to
It
do
makes me very nervous. Like I'm always trying to avoid legal fees. That's like one of my main goals in business. And
In your personal and professional.
yes,
Yeah.
yeah. All right. Do we have a?
Actually, just
Okay.
if I could, so just to follow up on this point, and the chair and I have talked about this. So what we're hoping to do is, after the committee decides the projects that you want to fund and support, that we have grant agreements that I can get back to you really, pronto, and make sure that that whoever's going to be receiving one of these grant agreements, that they are in agreement with the terms of that grant agreement, and we have that in place, so that when we go to town meeting, we're not dealing after the fact with, folks not being on the same page as what the board had really decided. And then there was also, there's also a discussion that we can have, not necessarily for tonight, but that will factor into this, since it's and that is a deed restriction for the historic. And so last night, with the select board, there was a discussion about how long, whether those are going to be in perpetuity, or whether they'll be for shorter periods of time. And again, that might be, that's going to be probably a more lengthy
Yeah,
discussion and consideration.
My recollection was that the original one was 35 years, and so I think probably 15
It
years.
was,
had
so I've
passed.
got it in front of me. So it expires in 2043.
43.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
This is effective in
So,
2008.
I mean, my thinking, Ron, and I don't know, you could give some guidance, is that we ought to have at least 50 years in total. I mean,
Or extended by 35 years from
yeah, yeah.
the fiscal year 2025.
Okay.
So, Mr. Simon, I have a question for you regarding signage. The applicant is required to put a sign out front or sign somewhere about the CPA money that it receives. How big do you want that? And where do we put it? I'm kidding.
They are required to have that.
Okay, do we have a,
So let's see if I can do this right, especially with town council here.
Yeah, you're on a roll, go ahead.
Seems like that way. I make a motion to approve the application for the 1836 Meeting House Exterior Preservation Project to the tune of $480,000, subject to conservation restrictions,
Historic preservation.
historic preservation restrictions, and with a recommendation that the chair of the Community Preservation Committee put something in the warrant relative to this application and the process, and with the purpose of letting others know availability of this kind of funds if they meet the criteria.
okay, John?
Yes.
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 Yes?
Yes.
Terry?
No,
Okay.
no.
Okay, we got it, we got it. Okay. Thank you very much.
Thanks for
We
coming.
appreciate it.
Appreciate the work.
Yeah, it really was.
So, I'll be working, and Zach's been great to work with. I'll be working with Zach once you finish your vote tonight, and we'll get all the grant agreements back before you, and I'll get a deed restriction before you in for 35, an extension. All right, sounds good. Thanks very much. Have a good night.
Thank you.
We had a legal question about the records, right?
Oh, I don't even think we need to
Okay.
bring that up, because I think it's,
Got it.
so we found out that digitization of records is not covered under the statute, like, pretty well settled, just from the statutory construction of the law. So I believe we will not approve that application.
Oh, that was the one for the
Newspapers.
archive?
Right,
Yeah.
right.
Okay.
So we have some other avenues through state grants and so forth that we can point
Yep.
the applicant to.
Did they went for that?
$14,000 or $15,000.
15.
Just passing tin cop around.
So, okay, so, boy, this is a long night. Library North Lawn. Okay,
Anyone that can come back.
all right. Okay, and to,
All right, my thought on this project is it's still too much money. I think I would like to see this project come back next year with a reduced scope of work.
I agree wholeheartedly. This one is just not ripe yet, and I think there's a lot of things that need to be addressed related to it before it's ready for prime time for a vote.
I mean, if you look at what's been offered to take out, is obviously reduce the contingency, the electrical, but I think it can be simplified and still remain functional and something that we could support.
okay, any more comments, or do we want to?
No.
I would agree with both of those comments. I think it's a lot of money. I'd like to see, when we asked her to come back, I really expected her to come back with more cuts. than she did. I'd like her to take a harder look at how she could do this a little better.
I will say this, I think, after feeling similarly to what you all mentioned, I think that there is a lot of value, though, in that space. And I think that it's kind of like buying a house with a lawn or without a lawn, right? I think she made a good point in terms of, the plan is to make that space functional. It's not necessarily just for show. And I think that, I just see this is another project where I think I would see an example of this is something that the average North Andover person would see and benefit from, particularly folks with young children and folks that are at the library on a regular basis. At the same time, I have some of the same concerns. It's a very expensive, considering that space.
There's a lot of detail in it that could be simplified to reduce the cost,
Yeah.
is what I'm saying. Not
Yeah.
to reduce the functionality of the project.
Yeah.
And by way of history, my recollection was one of the projects that we actually did fund for the library in the past is related to the roof. And we actually held that over 1 year and sort of went through a more thorough process and came up with a solution that people agreed with. So I don't think we're precluding it, we're just saying it's not
Come
going
back later.
to come back, so.
All right, do we have a motion?
So, I'm sensing that this is not going to pass. Do I still make a motion in favor of it, and then everyone votes no against it?
Yeah, why don't we just do that consistently, so that way.
Okay, I'll be consistent.
Okay.
The voice. I make a motion to apply, to approve the application for the Stevens Memorial Library Outdoor Space Project Phase 2, the tune of, I think she's come back with $768,683.49.
You got that sense in that.
Second.
Is there a second?
Yeah, okay, John?
No.
Okay.
No.
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 Terry?
No.
Okay. Okay. Got that one. Oh, Gordon. All right, we'll bring Ron back in. You want to do Patriots Memorial Park in the interest of time, because I think it'll go quickly. Adam, why don't you make a motion?
You want me to? Sure.
Got to get you in the mix here.
Yeah.
All right, Tim's gonna pull it up. Quicker than me.
It's coming up.
I make a motion to
Accept the application.
make a motion to approve the project preservation of 1922 Patriots Memorial Park in the amount of.
Hang on.
Is that this?
21,000.
21,000.
Right, $21,385.
Second.
All in favor?
Well, we gotta do a hand vote, right?
Yeah, oh yeah, we got to do
Yeah,
start.
roll
John.
call.
Yep, roll call.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes.
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 Terry?
Yes.
Okay. Great. That was a quick one. And then our last one on open space is the Lake Kachikawick Lake Access Restoration. We have any, obviously this project has been in front of us. This is the third year running. And this year they're asking for $983,900 to complete the construction. And they'd previously come to us for about $170,000 in construction and permitting. I mean, in design and permitting. Any other discussion on Lake Kachikawick access?
I have a question, does anybody ever feel about how this is going to be received at town meeting? The price tag, I've heard it referred to as the $1 million boat ramp. And maybe that's just people that have been talking to me about it.
It's probably because they don't have a full description of the improvement of the area, and they probably think it's just a boat ramp, but it's actually the whole space that's being improved, which will benefit the town's residents, I think.
The other thing too is, I could go back in time 2 years. They're not too far off from the numbers that they said there was going to be. So this is no surprise.
I mean,
Well, it might be a surprise to town meeting.
Oh, the 1 year chunk that's all of a sudden coming in.
I mean, I think you're right too. How it will land, how will people perceive it? I do agree with Rick that the scope is much bigger than the ramp. I mean, if the walls weren't falling apart there, it would have cost far less money. I mean, my thinking is you get people out like Peter Boynton and pitching it, and it maybe even went directly to where we think some negative sentiment is coming from, and get people to maybe stand down. I think because of the level of due diligence and work done on this, I think we have a rock solid case. I mean, we're not winging anything here.
Without even mentioning the water quality benefits too. I mean, the condition of the existing wall there is terrible, and it's just inviting.
So who will make who will make the presentation at town meeting prior to this coming up?
So it's usually like the chair.
You.
Yeah, I would go
Okay.
and make the presentation and kind of, and I think it'll be important to your point to give a visual of the whole space.
Well, yeah.
I mean, this is where you got to read the meeting. Is the best presentation is no presentation. As you found out last year, right? I mean, because, and I don't mean that in a cynical way, but it's, if you want the thing approved, you want to demonstrate that you did your homework, that we were very thorough and detailed, and you don't want to go into the guts of every project, because the more you go into the guts and try to explain it, more people will start pulling at strings. So you don't talk past the sale is really what it is, and get away with as little as you possibly can.
And see, that's interesting.
Don't go down a rabbit hole.
You don't.
Well, I would think in some ways, is it the opposite though? In some cases, I mean, so you have a lot of people, I assume, walking into town meeting. They haven't reviewed any of our meetings. They just kind of walk in. Here they are.
don't care.
They don't care, right? They walk.
Don't care.
Right.
I would say.
So they walk in. So they walk in, right? They're interested in stuff at a 10,000-foot level, and they hear about a boat ramp that's $1 million, not understanding all of the background. So isn't maybe in this case is the opposite the case? Is it our job to explain how many?
Let me give you like 2 or 3 examples of history, and Bill and Tim know this very well. Is there have been years where the entire town budget of $100 million came up and there wasn't a single question.
Right.
So sometimes that's just the mood of the people.
Right.
Okay. CPA, I would say over the last 20 years, probably half the time, we literally put the motion on, second, vote, any questions, vote, done.
Done. Yeah.
And that's what you want. I mean, preferably, and if, somebody may raise a question, you answer it honestly, but,
right.
you don't want to go in to, it's going to be later in the meeting, people are not going to be paying attention, there's going to be fewer people there, and all you want the article to do is come up and vote on it and be done with it. Yeah.
Okay. All right.
They've
Read the room.
used some engineering resources that know this project in detail in case
Right.
we need it. So we can call them in if we feel in advance we're going to need it.
Yeah. This isn't a boat ramp.
Yeah, it's exactly. It's a pretty complicated project.
Okay.
Okay, do we have a motion relative to the Lake Kachikawick Lake access?
I make a
CPC
motion
request?
to accept the application for the Lake Kachikawick Lake Access Restoration, Year 3, in the total amount of $983,900. Yep. That's all
I'll
I got.
second that.
John?
Yes.
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 Terry?
Yes.
Okay. Great, so, we are now into, sorry, let me just, okay, so we've taken care of all the open space projects, right? I'm not, we've taken one of the historic preservation projects. Okay, we have 3 historic preservation projects and then 2 affordable housing projects. So why don't we why don't we start with the digitization of the North Andover Citizen? Like I said, we sort of got some resources that said that digitization is not a valid, purpose. So if we could dispose of this one quickly. I
Yep,
think.
make a motion to accept the application for the digitization of citizens' records in the tune of $15,000.
Well, do we want to just vote it, or in this one, do we want to effectively say it doesn't qualify?
That's probably
I think-
wise.
Yeah. Well, why don't we vote it up and down? Because I feel like at least that's consistent. We're on the record with the vote, and then we can, I can say.
Yeah, I'm fine, I just want to make sure that we,
Yeah.
Second.
yeah, I mean, we're not rejecting because we don't like it, we're rejecting
Right.
because it doesn't qualify. Yeah.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
Need a second?
Second.
Just to
John.
Your motion is to accept the project.
Correct.
Motion is to accept the project. I vote no.
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 Terry?
No.
Okay. Good. And then we did the meeting house, Stevens Estate stabled in the amount of $150,000 for FY '25. Discussion?
I don't know what the long-term plan is for this space, and I just feel like it's going to fall down one day anyways, so I'm sorry.
I don't think so. I honestly think if we put the money in, it will be a tremendous asset to the town. And I know it's hard because it hasn't been cared for a long time, but I mean, I think if you could look by analogy to the gatehouse at the front, it finally is used productively for a good use, and it's a great historical building. I mean, and I think the stables are the same way. And I think we've learned enough that said it's past, like, it's more likely to collapse than it not. We've already had that engineering done, and I think what they're saying is, yeah, no, you can renovate this. It might not be super cheap, but you can renovate this. So I'm okay with it.
I think Youth and Recreation Services is interested in its use. I believe the cross-country team is interested in its use. As you well know, that the course that was constructed, obviously, there's no really place to gather inside. And I think.
And you Audubon Society.
And the Audubon Society.
Okay.
So but there's no sort of written out master plan for this?
No. I mean,
And-
this
and-
is
This is, and this is,
shored up. This is
just
shored up.
stabilize it,
Yeah.
basically.
yeah.
Well, there is a multi-year plan. This is the first phase.
Yeah.
Is it?
Yeah.
Were you talking about a use plan,
Oh,
Adam?
right, there's a multi-year stabilization.
Yeah.
plan,
Right.
Not in terms of how it will eventually be used.
So do we have a sense of like how much money needs to be put into this building before it is usable?
I don't know the answer to that.
Yeah,
I mean, it's going to be a lot. It's going to be 7 figures.
right.
Yeah, I mean, we don't know exactly what it's going to be, but it is going to be a lot.
How else would this building, when we get to that, if we wanted to get to that day, obviously, where, we're investing in it so that it's functional, where else would funds come from besides from us? From the town?
Town.
Yeah.
Might be some
Well,
grants.
I mean,
It's just,
I would bet it would be mostly us.
Town's kicking in
I
50,000.
mean, mostly us. I mean, if you go back with Stevens Estate, back to when we purchased it, to some degree, that was the problem from the very beginning with Stevens Estate, was that they couldn't make enough money from the property to sustain the capital development. So for like the first 10, 15 years of Stevens Estate, most of the capital investments came from CPC. And we were fine with giving them the money. I mean, because we probably put in close to $1 million into the estate. There was a master plan, by the way. But I think, and that was part of the reason why the place moved to a third party, running it, is because then that third party would invest in the future capital requirements. But I think the answer to your question is that it will mostly come from the town, probably CPA, but it may come a little bit come from the third party, from the Give It Hill people.
So the proposal here is to essentially stabilize a building that's not functional,
Right.
that we
Correct.
don't necessarily know what the future plan is on how to pay for it and renovate it. It's just, we're just kind of kicking the can down the road and making sure that this
No.
building survives,
That's
right?
what we're absolutely not doing.
Well, we're making sure this building survives, but we don't know.
Well, we don't know the final thing, but if you go back, I mean, because we had to deal with this problem, like 5 years ago. And at that time, it was, look, if you don't do something really quick, it will be gone. So we did some emergency stuff initially, then we did this becomes the second big phase. But I think we don't know exactly what the final use is going to be. We don't know exactly what it's going to cost us to do it, but we have a plan and we have a strategy, which we didn't have before. And that's why I feel comfortable doing this. I think we've got a clear vision about where we want to end up here. And I'm willing to take the chance on the uncertainty because it's such an important historical structure that I think it's worth preserving. And we're not going to throw good money after bad at it, I think.
That was going to be my next question, is in terms of the historic importance of this building, besides the fact that it's, obviously on the estate, is there anything else?
I think that is the point, though. It is a
Yeah.
major feature of the estate.
Part of the estate.
It's a big building, and that, historically, that's what we're all about, I think.
Yeah.
So,
And there is a plan in place. I mean, there was an
Yeah.
architect that prepared a kind of a step improvements to the building. So there is a plan, but you are correct. The final use of the building has not been determined, I
Yeah.
don't think yet. But I think it's important to move forward with preserving this building and make sure it doesn't fall into further deterioration.
We have precedents for doing that, last year's barn kind of thing, so.
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, do I have a motion relative to the Stevens Estate CPC application?
I'll go forward.
Enjoy-
I move, I've been convinced. I make a motion to approve the Stevens Estate Stables application for the tune of $150,000.
I'll second that.
Okay, John?
yes.
Yes.
I'm going to abstain.
Okay.
Yes.
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 Terry?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Excellent. Okay, so now we're on to the last historic preservation application, and that's for the historic bell. Ron, did you have any updates?
Yeah, well, yeah, we discussed this at the Historical Commission meeting last night. We just don't have enough information yet. We don't know where it came from.
Yeah.
The other point I would make is I have some doubts as to whether the application even qualifies for funds in terms of preservation. There's really, it talks about doing research and about housing the bell. As far as we know, the bell doesn't need any work itself to be preserved. So I think we'd be in questionable
Right.
grounds to spend any money in terms of the current application. Once we know the history, there may be some other aspects that could come forward, but, so, to answer your original question, no, we don't know the history.
Okay.
There's not enough detail in here
Right.
anyways, plus also, I think he's asking for $30,025 and $30,026. I mean, that's his plan, $60,000 for this bill. And again, there's not a specificity relative to 30,000, the first 30,000, it sounds like he's gonna do a study. That's a lot of
Yeah.
money
It's
for a
just not
study.
enough information. It's
Yeah.
really that simple.
Yeah. We want to move to a vote? Yeah.
You're making me sad. You picked this one specifically.
It's $30,000.
It's because I abstained on the last vote, isn't it?
Yeah.
I vote to approve the historic bell display.
You make a motion.
I would make a motion, rather, to approve the historic bell display in the amount of $30,000.
Second.
John?
I vote no.
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 Terry?
No,
Okay. All right, so now we're in the home stretch with affordable housing. With two projects. North Andover Housing Authority, $75,000 in this fiscal year for design for standby power systems at Folds Terrace and O'Connor Heights projects. Do we have any discussion?
I was just curious. It sounds like we've approved similar projects in the past.
Yes.
Okay. Were there any concerns at that time?
No.
Doesn't seem like it. Okay.
There's never been any problem with anything as to this. It's
been always good.
Housing Authority, every one of those projects has gone through. There actually was a project that was privately funded. It was the only project that ever got turned down on the floor at town meeting. But we went back the next year to get approved, so. It's Stevens Court right there.
Yep. Yep.
So I don't see a problem with this.
Okay. Do we have a motion?
I make a motion to approve the Folds Terrace and O'Connor Heights standby power supply systems in the tune of $300,000.
Second?
John?
Yes.
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 Okay, great. And then the last project is the Affordable Housing Trust at Bread and Roses Housing.
Can I just clarify one thing? Was
Sure.
it 75,000 for? fiscal year?
75,000 for this year.
Fiscal, yeah,
Yeah.
2020.
Yeah, 225,000.
But fiscal year 2026. Yep.
So I think that's helpful context, and obviously we'll probably have a better number next year.
Yep.
So,
So 75,000 is what we're approving for this year.
right,
That's correct.
Okay.
okay. And the next project is 14 to 16
Can I
Brown
amend-
Court.
Can I therefore, can we,
That's why I was just
can we,
clarifying.
can we
75,000 for
revote on the
2025.
last one, please? We redo it again,
Okay.
because right now it stands at $300,000.
Oh,
That's why
I didn't
was
catch
asking.
it.
That's why I asked.
No, that's a good point.
75,000 for fiscal year 2025.
Yeah.
Let me just sort of get back here. First of all, I think we have to refute
There's-
the,
Hey, I was gonna say, is there something we have to do to strike the record on the
No,
previous?
I think we can just clarify our intent and then write it down.
all right.
I'm sorry, I swear to God, I thought I heard you say
I
75,000.
thought so too. I thought you said 75,000.
At least my hair is
I'm
still
too new
there.
to question you, Tim. I'm too new to question you.
I make a motion to correct, no, I make a motion to, yeah, I'll say to correct the last one, to approve the application of the Folds Terrace and O'Connor Heights standby power supply systems to the tune of $75,000 for the year 2025.
Second?
John?
Yes.
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 Terry?
Yes.
Okay. Okay. So, now the last project is 14 to 16 Brown Court. It's a total project cost is $2.734 million, and they've come to us for $500,000. So it's 4 affordable housing units, and we're funding about a fifth of it. So, any further discussion?
Do we need to put a condition in this that, like, the money can only be used for this property and nothing else? I mean, it's implicit, but is the way the thing's written
We have to make the language very specific to this
let's-
property.
I mean, I think everything is contingent on. We do a funding agreement before we release any.
Good, as long as we have the funding agreement, yeah, because, I mean, you don't want the deal to collapse and the
Right.
money hanging out there, so,
Right.
yeah,
I did say
yeah.
that.
I mean, the application has a purchase and sale attached to it,
Yeah.
so.
Yes,
Okay.
it does.
Yeah, okay.
Yes. I'll make a motion. Motion to approve project 14 to 16 Brown Court in the amount of $500,000.
Second.
John?
Yes.
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 Okay.
Can I make a motion to approve $25,000 for administrative funds? Because that's what we usually do.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You want 75,000?
25.
25.
Okay.
Tim's giving out money today.
We have 50, and we've done 50 for
Ever.
a couple years.
Did we? Oh, it was
Yeah.
50, I just, yeah, if it's 50, I don't care.
Yeah.
What-
I don't think we've.
What's the website correction changes gonna cost us, Zach?
Yeah. No, I think I want to leave, I think time management has been, very efficient with the use of funds. I don't think we've used a lot, but, I think it's better to have it. And
No, I'm fine
Yeah.
with that, then 50 is fine. I make the motion to approve 50 for,
Second.
John?
Yes.
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 Okay, great. Thank you. Thanks I would have forgot that. Appreciate that, John. Okay, and then, just looking at the agenda, we don't have any, minutes. I did want to talk, we do have a meeting scheduled for April 11th. We always wanted to sort of preserve, in case any new information came up or anything. Any thoughts on, if we should have that meeting or?
Well, I mean, I would keep it in the calendar. You can always cancel it if
Okay.
you don't have anything on the
Is it
agenda.
important for us to review what you're going to present at town meeting,
Oh, yeah, we could do that. Yeah,
even if it's a short meeting?
yeah. Okay, that sounds good. A good recap.
When do you have to go see the select board? And
I have to go see, I'm not on the select board calendar yet. I think they'll put me on pending this.
Yeah.
They wanted me to come on Monday, but I was away and we hadn't voted, and I said it would be premature for me to come, before we voted the projects. So we put everything into the, we met the warrants closed, the proposal's in there, but we can edit it just like, we edit the finances afterwards.
I did try to get a pulse of where a finance committee might be on anything we've touched, and there's nothing definitive, but the feedback is that there was nothing that stood out that would cause them heartburn or cause them angst like that there was last year, so.
Okay. All right, so the 14th it is.
14th or 11th?
The 11th, I'm sorry. I took a red eye last night, maybe a little out of it. Yes, it's the 11th.
It wasn't it was Las Vegas.
All right, any further motions?
Motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Okay, we're in good shape.